We still have a minute.
Bruce can do it on the fix print.
They're trying to put the third.
It says this meeting is being recorded by host or participant, and then I conclude press God.
Is there a way to make it just the?
Jackson.
I'm the worst technology person. Move out of here.
He's got.
Miss Chad. Thank you.
30 seconds.
Everything looking okay, Justine?
I think so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Ten seconds. June 7th, 2023, City Council meeting is now called to order. Does anyone have a conflict of interest?
No.
No? Okay. Approval of minutes. In your packet, you received 4 different minutes. The regular meeting of the City Council, May 3rd. Any corrections?
No.
If not, I'll take a motion to accept.
I move that we accept the minutes of the regular city council meeting of May 3rd, 2023.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes. All right. Executive session, May 9th. Any corrections?
Not for me.
Motion?
Let me get a motion to approve the minutes from the executive session of the city council from Tuesday, May 9th, 2023.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right. All right, special meeting. Special meeting, May 11th.
I move that we approve the minutes from the special meeting of the city council Thursday, May 11th, 2023, without any changes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. And the work session on May 30th.
I make a motion that we approve the council work session minutes from Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, without any changes.
All those in favor, say aye.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
You just want to get rid of these minutes.
That's the meeting.
Right, okay, so everyone's got a copy of the planning commission report. Are there any questions that we're not going to be able to answer because we don't have chat? Even though you're there, I'd rather not hear you speak. If you can help it. All right.
No questions from you?
Mayor's report. Well, I talked to Liz Malarkey, owner of the store, and she's finished with the roof and is continuing to do inside work. And when she's ready, she will open a grocery store. That, as is 2 o'clock this afternoon. So there you are. That's all my report.
Other people will be having-
I hope so. The counselors report, Dana, we're gonna start with you.
Okay, well, as everybody can see by the number of minutes that we just had to approve, all of us have been very, very busy this month. Shout out, start the shout outs. Number one, let's give a shout out to Chad Sweet, to Officer Brown, to Christy, to Justine, to Public Works, everybody in Public Works, everybody in the city pretty much threw in on the cleanup down on Glen Avenue. And I have received, I can't tell you how many phone calls, emails and texts and just people stopping me on the street and telling me how much they appreciate everybody's hard work on that. So thank you very much. Also want to share some positive comments I've received about the benches. People are really excited about the benches being updated and the way that they're looking. Fireman's Ball. I don't want to steal your thunder, but that was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome. So this last month I went to the League of Oregon Cities, Small Cities meeting in Rainier. The League of Oregon Cities spent a lot of time discussing their goals, their goal setting for the next couple of years. One of the two major topics of conversation. Number one was unhoused and homeless issues. Everybody's struggling with it. The other is with everybody still struggling to find the same type of staff that everybody else is struggling to find. We all need planners, we all need city managers, we all need, you know, heaven forbid that you lose your police chief. So they're all in the same boat that we are. One of the things that came up was that a lot of cities, unlike us, were surprised by the time, place, and manner is the deadline coming up in July. They had no information that that was coming. And so in case you were wondering whether we were ahead of the game on that, we really were compared to some of the cities that I heard talking. And what they asked the League of Oregon Cities to do, put it into their goal setting, was a way to get out the message to us better when the legislature comes up with something like that that could impact us, and there is a time limit, that it shouldn't be a surprise source, or we shouldn't all be scrambling at the end trying to make sure that we're in compliance. And I think everybody was in agreement on that. Next one is for our region, which is the North Coast, is August 4th. And that one's in Warrenton from 11 to 1. You should register. You don't have to register, but you should register so that they know how much food they offer lunch. And I committed us to doing it in the summer of 2024. I opted not to sign up for the winter due to issues coming over the 26th and the 30th. So we should host that, and it's just usually like 30 people. It's not a big deal. Also attended the Earhart Association meeting where there was a lot of discussion about July 4th preparation, just along the lines of what we talked about at our last work session. I'm very happy to report that we have some lovely signs that were designed and ordered today, and I'll put out more information on that in the blog here in the future. But thank you guys all for supporting that. That was a unanimous decision at our work session, that we would put out signs throughout the city reminding people to have a happy 4th of July, but also to be courteous to your neighbors. If it flies or explodes, it's illegal. If you pack it out, pack it back in. From the beach, please help us keep the beach clean. Talked to a number of citizens that were reporting that last year during the beach cleanup, there were 16 some live fires still going the next morning. People got up and left their entire camps, their chairs, tables, and everything else. These folks had to somehow clean up a lot of human waste. And a lot of the usual garbage that you can expect. So along those lines, we are organizing a July, it's not just me, citizens have been talking about this for a while, but we have opted to have a meeting this coming Saturday, the 10th at 2 o'clock. Bring your lawn chair, meet us over at Centennial Park if you want to help us plan and start thinking about what we'll do for July 5th so that it's not a surprise. Bring your ideas to that if you'd like to help out with that. What is it? Oh, I'd like to remind everybody that Seaside and Astoria both have fireworks shows that you can attend. And those both start at 10 o'clock on July 4th. And they're safe and they're run by those cities, and they're really good fireworks shows that you could watch if you like. And I think, oh, also we'll be putting out some information. What we'd really like to do is we're gonna include information in the blog and email stuff to people here in the near future, working again with the Gearhart Association. What we'd really like to do is come up with a packet that short-term rentals, Airbnb folks and those type of people could include in a welcome packet to remind people of the rules here in Gearhart. That, you know, if you're gonna do fireworks, please remember that we have a number of people here that don't enjoy them as much as you do. And everybody loves 4th of July, but we don't really need to celebrate the Tuesday before at 8 o'clock. Or happy, you know, Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning, everybody awake on the neighborhood kind of thing. So there you go. That's the other one.
Thanks. Sharon,
I just wanted to clarify what I said at the last meeting about the community emergency response team, CERT team in Gearhart. We are working on putting together an inventory questionnaire for all Gearhart citizens to fill out if they're willing. It can be filled out with their name on it, or it can be filled out anonymously. We're probably going to do this in a number of ways, including over the blog, perhaps door to door, and maybe in the water bills. And really, this is just an effort on our part to give information only to city staff and the fire department people. They will be the only ones privy to the information that goes on your inventory to find out what we have where in the way of emergency supplies.
Rita.
Okay, so I attended the Clatsop Regional Housing Task Force, where their one of their major focuses is to find housing for local workers. And we concentrated on Warrenton because Warrenton, 75% of their land is non-taxable. But they have a project that they're working on. It's called BTR, Build to Rent, in which a portion of land is set aside. They're building homes that will only be for rent in perpetuity. And it's going to have, or it's proposed to have about 75 homes, and Chad, he was listening in, so he could tell you if that was correct or not. But it's a really great project and it's getting started soon. So hopefully Warrenton will be on the forefront of helping us solve our workforce housing. And that's it.
Preston.
Well, at the request of the folks that have run the police academy and the training facility, I wrote to both Givaldi and Weber. I received a boilerplate response from Givaldi's chief of staff, which really didn't tell me that they, I mean, it told me that they read the letter, they got the letter. As far as Weber goes, I mean, they're all MIA, so I don't know whether or not, you know, I don't know if they can even pass any increased funds for the training facility.
That's it? Okay. On to city officer reports. Ian, excuse me, Sergeant.
Nothing from the police department this month.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you at all.
Nothing from the police department this month, unless somebody has any questions for me.
Any questions?
I have a question. In your report, is that 2 different dump trailers that were stolen from the 101?
Yes,
Wow, okay. And have either of them been recovered?
No.
Also, just to share with you again, along the beach line, there's a lot of concern about the beach. And I know that that's not necessarily your responsibility, but I appreciate the times that you've been seen down there because people have commented on it. So, and I'd like to encourage you whenever you do have a moment to need to write reports or anything that can be done somewhere near the beach entrance, that'd be awesome. Especially near 10th Street, because there's, as summer comes up, there are a lot of people driving a little crazy down there.
I'll keep that in mind.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Josh Como, Chief.
Thank you, sir. You guys all should have the report from the data call stats from last month. A quick recap of it, we had 49 total calls for the month of May, 23 that were inside the city limits and 20 were in the district. We sent out aid 6 times, in total 4 went to Seaside, 2 was for structured fires, 2 was for different times when they needed extra manpower, covered short. With that, and then we had a structure fire in Canada Beach and 1 in Warrenton last month. Received aid once for water rescue calls, just like structure fires, when other departments come in and we go there. Seaside comes and helps us with water rescue. With that, and then reminding everybody that we were successful in 2 grants. We'll be getting a brand new apparatus from the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office to replace a 27-year-old tender that's out of the substation. And then we were again successful in the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office, the upstaffing grant for the wildland fire season. So that gives us 3 seasonal full-time positions for the summer, which helped us with the fire we had yesterday in Surf Pines. On Monday, we had to miss and help them with the big fire they had over there with that. And then as Councilor Blue brought up, yes, so we had our fireman's ball last month, which was the most successful ball we've ever had on record. It wasn't as packed as normal, which was nice, and the people cleared out, I think as early as I've ever seen them clear out. But it brought in the most funds that we ever generated from the ball. So that was really good and really successful from that there. Yeah, it was good. We liked that everybody cleared out quick. We didn't have to pick anybody up. Everybody was calm, everybody was nice, everybody was glad to be there. It went well, and then the mayor was there dealing cards for us tonight and everything helping out. It was great. As I mentioned last month in a very short, a brief moment, there was that movie that was put out by the National Volunteer Fire Council in joint efforts with John Deere that serves 2 purposes. The one purpose is show community members what volunteer fire departments, what volunteer firefighters do for the community. And the other purpose of it is for a recruitment tool to show to recruit new firefighters. The Times Theater did say we could use their facility. They gave us a super close date of June 11th, this Sunday. So we pushed it out to all the fire departments. They've shared it, social media, the radio stations have shared it. Almost every city in the county has shared it. Classic Emergency Management KMU in. A free movie event for anybody and citizens of the county wants to come to the Times Theater on Sunday at 2 p.m. Watch the movie. The movie is very well put together. It's a documentary. They follow different groups of people, life of a firefighter and how they became what they were and why they do it. Very well done. And then there'll be some raffles and giveaways after that going from there. So it'll be very good. And then we just got told that Liberty Theater in Astoria will listen to the same thing. So in a couple of weeks, we'll do a big movie event in the North End. So unless there's any questions, that's all I have. Yes, sir.
The water tenders, that still belongs to the district?
No, the water tender does not belong to that one. The district, you're right, does own that one as the only apparatus that they own with that. So this is different than an AFG grant. An AFG grant you get, when you get an AFG grant to replace an apparatus, you have to decommission the one you have for that purpose. So like a private contractor, forestry operation can get it. Because we were awarded a grant for an apparatus, we don't have to decommission it. So the district will do with that what they please to do on it. That's the only apparatus that they own on that. So they are thinking they may put like there's like a fire trader that they can put it up for that and sell it there and get some revenue costs or something from there. The new tender will be city owned, so then the city will own every apparatus.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Esteemed City Treasurer.
June is an important month for the city of Deer Heart in terms of finances. Any budget appropriation changes for the current fiscal year have to be completed. Next year's budget has to be approved. And all the budgeting stuff has to be finalized up at the county by June 30th. And at this point, everything's going on track. The city of Deer Heart has been holding municipal court 4 times a year. And between municipal court dates, the city is required to hold on to all the fines and fees that are collected. And then we distribute them out to all the agencies that get funds from that. The fines and fees are put into what is called a bail trust liability account. And when received, these funds are not considered City of Gerhart revenue until the court clerk prepares the distribution of funds report. In May, the city held municipal court and the court clerk prepared the quarterly distribution of funds report. And the amount of revenue that the City of Gerhart was eligible to receive was deposited in account 100013, fines and forfeitures. This is intended to cover expenditures related to court, so like the judge fees and the court clerk's salary. Other agencies that the city distributes revenues to are to Clatsop County, because they have a judicial system up there, and the Oregon Department of Revenue, which is for the Oregon judicial system. These checks were paid out in May and can be reviewed in the check detail report, and the account number says bail trust liability in and out. So if you look at the check detail, you can see what those checks are. The city has recently upgraded our phone system to a VoIP, or a voice over internet protocol, which makes calls over the internet instead of the traditional phone lines. Our old system was deemed obsolete and no longer supported. So when new staff or things changed, we could no longer get in and update it. There will be a cost savings because we were able to eliminate some of our phone lines and some of the services that we no longer need. The expenditures for the new system were charged in multiple places. So 10-881, which is the administrative equipment account, 10-1281, the police equipment account, 10-1381, the fire equipment account, and 30-38, the office. So we distributed those funds out depending upon how many phones that each one of those departments received. The city made its April payment to the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office in account 10-1263, which is purchase services. There were no additional charges for services for the month. If you remember, the agreement did allow that if they had overtime or additional charges, they would assess those to us. The Sheriff's Office has been graciously trying to minimize any additional costs by incorporating coverage into their staff's schedule already. So they're trying to help us to make sure that we don't have to spend more than $12,000 a month. I will be making some adjusting journal entries to a few PERS accounts. PERS employer accounts are based on gross salary amounts. And due to some financial software account distribution limitations, PERS employer contributions have to be charged to only one salary account. So we have people who have multiple accounts, like the city treasurer, water clerk, public works has 3. They have parks, street, and water, and we can charge their salary to those different places, but PERS gets charged to only one of them. And then at the end of the year, I make an annual adjusting journal entry to adjust those. So there's no financial change to the revenue and expenditures. It's simply just adjusting accounts. So if you look in the revenue report, you can see that a good example would be looking at court would have 0 PERS, but when I do an adjustment, the PERS will be there to reflect it. I'll take it from building, which is where it's been charged. Our water operating fund continues to struggle financially because revenue targets haven't been met. The city will not be making the 2 budgeted transfers to the water reserve fund and the public works major equipment reserve fund. And I am requesting the use of reserve funds to assist in alleviating a negative fund balance, which we'll talk about later. We are currently in the process of a water rate study with O'Donovan Enterprises, which you guys had been told about earlier in the year. Our original timeline for a completed report had to be modified because we were waiting on some information with our purchase agreement from Warrenton, because that really does impact the overall picture of finances. So, and in other water news, city staff will continue efforts to meet our 2022 water management and conservation benchmark. So watch the blog for tips and other things on water conservation. Overall, the new building planning e-permitting software has been going smoothly, at least on the financial side. Our building planning assistant, Angelina, has done some amazing things and is learning quickly. I've been able to easily pull reports and financial transactions, so I can verify things very nicely. And at this point, any problems that we've had, we've been able to resolve them super quickly. So it's made my Oregon State Building Surcharge report amazingly easy. Button, done. So all good things.
Thank you, Justine. City Attorney, Peter Watts.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about some familiar themes, and I'm gonna start with water. As was mentioned, we are in the middle of negotiations regarding water rates with Warrenton. And I have some fairly significant concerns, so I'm just going to put them out there. The way that, as I understand it, the Warrenton water source and water line go through Gearhart first, so that's why we're referred to as the first customer when we need to buy water. And we maintain the portions of their line that are in the city. Because we've done that, then we've traditionally gotten what I refer to as the Warrenton rate, which is what their ratepayers pay, which is less than people in unincorporated Clatsop County, which makes a lot of sense, and that's what it should be, because Warrenton's having to, even though it would be necessary for them to maintain it for Warrenton, they have to maintain those areas that are outside the city. So in the proposal which we reached from Warrenton, we would have one more year at this, our current rate, and then we would be going to the higher rate. And that might not seem fair, but actually that's the least of my concerns about the proposal we got. My primary concerns are, there are two things that have been suggested that I do not think, even if we thought they were a good idea, which I strongly feel are not, I don't think we could do legally. The first is that they proposed that their planning staff be able to review all of our developments of more than one house and essentially have veto authority on that. And that's simply not how it works. We have our own comp plan and we have our own building process. We have clear and objective standards. We have 120 days from a complete application in order to process and make a decision on an application. That can be really challenging to get through applications, even that are complete, particularly because some years we have a lot more building than others. If we were to allow another city to have some sort of parallel review, I feasibly don't think we could get through it. And because their standards are different than ours and all their rules are different than ours, I mean, we would just end up getting sued, because if somebody met our clear and objective criteria, they're entitled to build a house. That's just how it works. And if another jurisdiction were to veto that, then that's our problem. So practically speaking, I don't think we can agree to it. Legally speaking, the legal risk is extreme. And frankly, I've never had another jurisdiction suggest that sort of arrangement, which gets us to even a more surprising suggestion, which would be that they can impose their system development charges on Gearhart building projects of more than one house. So the way that system development charges work is we do a methodology just like we would for our water rates. And that if they're new users coming on, the idea is they're paying for their connection, and they're also paying a little bit more, understanding that the more people that come on, the more capacity we need. And so hopefully growth pays for itself, and that's how it's supposed to work. So what we would be looking for in any SDCs are our costs. I don't believe, now if we weren't in charge of water, or if we had sewer, like Clean Water Services in Washington County, the cities don't do any sewer, Clean Water Services does it all, so the cities don't have that rate and that SDC. That's not what we're talking about when we buy water from Warrenton, which we do a couple months out of the year. And we could I can't imagine we could use their FCC methodology because we are customer one. And any new development in Gearhart is not going to cause them to upsize pipes between Gearhart and Warden. So there's just, it would be incredible, given that we are a buyer, it would be incredibly difficult to accurately measure our impact on their system because right now they have capacity. Which brings us to the third issue. They want to limit the amount that we can buy from them. We're currently under the limit that's proposed, but I'm very uncomfortable with that. Though not as uncomfortable as I am with the other two proposals. So that, I don't think it will be illegal for us to agree to a cap. Part of the reason that I'm saying this is because I want people in Gearhart to be aware and to conserve water when they can. If we do have a capped amount, that could result in a moratorium, future moratorium, which hopefully would not happen, but is possible. What we would need to be able to demonstrate to the state was that we were trying to get water from other sources because the state does not like moratoriums. To that end, and because Chad's voice is what it is, this is on his report. So one of the things that we've been talking to you about a little bit and taking steps in order to see what we can see is we intend to seek more water rights from the OWRD. Part of that is because of the cap. I think that gives evidence of why we would need it because we don't want to be tied to another jurisdiction that could impose that could force us into a moratorium. Part of it is because the letter was written in a way that, in my reading, made it seem that Warrenton didn't want to sell water to us, which was surprising because we pay them like $300,000 a year for water. And again, their cost is minimal. They have the capacity and we're maintaining their line. So I'm kind of wonder why they wouldn't want to sell it to us, but they said, you know, that you need to seek your own water. The good news about all that is that when we sought our own water previously, the Warrenton was opposed to us getting water and that we were kind of had to come up with a compromise amount. So if we do the water studies that we'll need to do in order to seek it more water rights from the OWRD, based on, we're continually testing our wells to make sure the water we're pulling is the salinity level, all this stuff. So we've got data. Based on the data we think we have considerable water capacity. So, and I worked with many water attorneys over my career. One that I worked with kind of took a look at things on a pro bono basis, just to give us an idea. And he's someone that does work all up and down Oregon, Washington, California, done a lot of water on the coast, Seattle area and Oregon, based up in Oregon. And he said it looks like they have a lot of water. In fact, during heavy rains, apparently the dunes bleed water, which is really unusual. And that was very exciting for the water people to hear. So they were very excited, which I shouldn't make fun of it because I kind of geek out over land use stuff, but very unusual. And so we're hoping we would have to spend a little money to get that. I think the total cost through all the study and what we need to approach the OWRD is probably going to be 50 or 60,000, which is basically 1/5 or 1/6 what we're paying now at Warrenton. So in my mind, well worth the money. And also, if we're going to have a moratorium, these are the sort of steps that we would need to demonstrate to the state to show that we're doing whatever we can. The other piece that I mentioned to Chad was to have some preliminary conversations with Seaside and see if they have water capacity or be willing to sell us water. Again, this is, dotting our I's and crossing our T's, but also perhaps giving us a little bit of negotiating leverage. Preliminarily, it looks like we would have to upsize the pipe between Seaside and Gerhart, but it's not a huge length of pipe. And again, redundancy in the system is something we're kind of always looking for. So that's a long way of saying that, and I'm always optimistic that we can come up with a reasonable negotiated outcome. But there's some stuff that when it comes time to sign an agreement, if they're insisting on it, my legal advice to you is that I don't think we can agree to it. And I would hope, I hope they'll have an opportunity to talk to their attorney. I had a great relationship with their prior attorney, but he went in-house with Columbia County, and I'm not sure who is staffing them now, but I'll be having those conversations. And I hope that that attorney is familiar enough with the SDC methodology, land use planning system, and also system development charges to agree with kind of my analysis that they're asking us for things that we can't give them. Beyond that, it's been relatively quiet. Some of our ordinances that we put into effect to give us, more control and just health and safety matters related to the city really appear to be working. And I too have received some thank yous from people, just saying that they appreciate how responsive the city was in dealing with community concerns. And they love how things are looking when they take a left off of the highway and head to their Gerhart home. So it's always sometimes I don't mind criticism, but it's always nice to get a positive feedback. So I think you guys did a great job, Chad and the whole team on those issues. And that is all I've got.
Thank you, Peter.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
They can't legally cut us off, right? They can't, don't we have some, as a municipality, doesn't that give us a little bit more standing?
Yeah, our goal always is to avoid litigation, but they do not have I do not believe that they have the record that would be necessary in order to just cut us off. That said, they can raise our rates, and that goes to the importance of the rate study. And that I would say, to the people conducting the rate study, when I have people asking me for things that I can't give them, whether it's conditions on a land use application or whether it's something like this, I start getting really nervous because when you're to have a successful negotiation, in my mind, both parties need to be able to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of their positions. And as I look, I must be looking at this very differently than Warren's looking at it, because what I see is we're providing them with a huge benefit. Because the more water we draw from our wells, the cleaner the water is. It's just the way it works, and I didn't know that. I've been learning a lot about water. And the water that we draw is actually cleaner from, which is why you can taste a little bit of chlorine. We're doing the minimum amount of chlorine, and people can talk about tasting it, and that's because our water is so clean that when we add the chlorine, it's apparent. And that's not true of all jurisdictions, including our neighbors to the north. So like by buying water from them, we're adding redundancy to the system. We're giving them $300,000 a year. They have the capacity, they have the water rights. As I see it, there's no downside risk to them selling. In fact, it's all upside. So if I were advising them, which obviously I'm not, I would be like, thank you, Gerhart, and let's be as reasonable as possible to our neighbors, because we want to be good neighbors and we want to continue getting their business. And they really do not see it that way at all. So they're like, you're taking our water, and we might have to stop building in the future because of the water that we're selling you, and we're going to cap the amount of water you can buy from us. I mean, these are all proposals, and we want to veto, we want to control what you can build or not build if it's a subdivision, and we want to impose our SDCs on you. I can't, my job is to advise you on legal risk, it's not to tell you what to do, but I'm not accustomed to having to tell my city councils what is being asked of us by partnering jurisdiction. In my opinion, it's not legal. Yeah.
Peter, do you think that Warrenton is doing this because of the build to rent projects that are in the pipeline for 75 new homes? Do you think that would have kind of pushed them over the edge?
I really don't know. I have had very limited experiences with Warrenton in the past, but I did some analysis of a project once, and the exactions that they were expecting from that, a lot of them were offsite, which is not something that I commonly see at all. And they didn't seem necessarily proportionate to the benefit that was received, which I thought was interesting, and my private side client decided that was not an opportunity for them. So I was vaguely aware that kind of maybe traditionally their mindset around development is that perhaps development in the past in Warrenton hadn't paid for itself, and that to make sure that future development in Warrenton would pay for itself. But which, sure, I mean, I think we all want development to pay for itself. But 75 houses, I mean, that's not a lot of water. It really isn't at all. And they've got a huge amount. I mean, they've got like millions of gallons of capacity. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what the driving force of this is. I don't know who their city attorney is. I know that they have a new one, and I heard that they have a new city manager as well. And so this might be the first contract negotiation. And again, it's hard because I really see us as providing them a benefit, and that's not what I read. But I think we've been headed down the road of kind of getting a better idea of our water rights and a better understanding. And if we can get additional water rights so that we're independent and can meet our own needs going forward, I mean, that really is a huge benefit to us, because we don't have to worry about paying water. We don't have to worry about someone unilaterally being able to raise our water rates.
So ultimately, then by taking this action, they might actually be helping us in that endeavor.
Well, I will say that because I always worry about the record. And if I am going to the state and saying, here are additional reasons for why we need to do this, I mean, that's pretty strong evidence in the record. And if they change their mind and we're like, oh, well, we do enjoy selling water to them, and maybe we want to limit their water rights, it will be very hard for them to make that argument when they have told us in writing as part of the negotiation that they don't want to sell us water, that we need to become independent, and that they're going to cap our water sold. So if they believe in writing that their desire is for us to have independence and no longer need to buy water from them, then there would be no reason for them to do anything other than to support our quest for additional water rights. So like from all of that perspective, I feel like anything there benefits and burdens. But what concerns me is just if they come in and said, look, we thank you for maintaining our system, but we really want you to pay a little bit more because it's really hard for us to explain to our water users that are paying our taxes why you're getting the same rate as we are. I could explain to those people why we didn't think that they are, but I could understand that perspective. And I would, try and negotiate against that, and I ultimately, I think we could come to some sort of resolution on that. It's the SDCs and the veto power and the forcing us to do a moratorium that we just can't have that. So that's my concern.
There's a whole history with Warren and Gearhart, okay? My entire life, we've got Warren water.
Yeah.
Okay, we used to have water rights, on the mountain up there, but we never ever used them, basically.
Yeah.
And Warren had 25 years to come up with a filtration system after the federal government said anybody that got their water from a surface fed stream had to have it go through a filtration system. They waited until the 11th hour and they didn't have any money. So they held Gearhart up and started jacking the rates. And that's the reason why we went for the well field.
Yeah.
Okay, now they're trying to do the same thing. So I think we develop our water rights out here on the dunes.
Yeah, I really think, and again, all my cities have neighboring cities and, I believe in collaboration and all that, but we would be well served by having independence in this.
Well, I mean, and the fact of the matter is that Warren's got, they've got all this land that they're capable of developing. So sooner or later, maybe in the next 100 years or something like that, they are going to be, because pulling out of the Lewis and Clark, that's a salmon fed stream. Okay. You're going to have to abide by all the other rules.
Okay. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
I would love to move on.
All right. City Administrator, do you want to talk or do you want someone to read your report so you don't have to?
I appreciate that. I'm feeling a little bit better. It seems like I only cough when I talk. So I'm getting better at that. I just want to update a couple things, and thank you very much, Justine, for taking care of City Hall while both Christy and I are out. Much appreciated. Code enforcement, nothing really big to report. Just again, a reminder, don't plant anything on the ridge path without talking to the city. It's really just a situation where we want to get rid of noxious weeds and not put any more landscaping out there. It's kind of a natural trail by design. So if you have any questions about that, please just give us a call. We were also sending out a lot of letters about noxious weeds. So do your best to get that Scotch broom out of your yard or the field next to you or your neighbor's yard, however you'd like to do it. But this is the time of year to do it, and it'd be much appreciated. So we send letters out once a year to make sure that people are cleaning up the best that they can. Went to a lot of meetings. Today went to another meeting having to do with FEMA and a new biological opinion that came down to FEMA after FEMA was sued by the Audubon Society of Oregon. And this has to do with the way that riparian areas have been cared for and new restrictions on making riparian areas a little bit bigger, or at least the process to build near a riparian area a little different. So we're getting caught up in that. There's a short time period for comment, and the city staff will be forwarding some more documents to the council so that you folks can understand what's going on. Water conservation, I don't want to beat the water to death, but we do really need to work on the water conservation. And so what public works staff is going to be doing is driving by homes early in the morning on rainy days. And we're going to kind of try to pick out some folks that are watering during those rainy days and then just reach out to them in a friendly letter, asking them to potentially look at some of those new technologies that are out there, especially in the water devices that turn the irrigation systems on and off. Super easy to install, and they don't water during the rain or wind events or freezing weather. Very good for the city system. So we'll continue to talk about those kinds of things in the future. We've got the 4th of July parade. Thank you very much, Fire Department. 11 a.m. start, 10:30 lineup. And do recall, there's no vehicles except for the fire truck in that parade. This is all walking or bicycles. or something that's human powered. So no vehicles in that. That's for safety. And the day before that, the street dance, Monday, July 3rd, which will be 7 to 10. Thank you, Melissa Eddy. She's always celebrating something, it seems. And she wants Gear Heart to celebrate a little bit. And so that is Monday, July 3rd, 7 to 10. After that, unless the council's got any questions, I don't have anything.
No questions? All right. Ecology, you're up finally.
You want me to stand or am I good?
You're good where you are as far as
I'm
that's.
quite comfortable now. No, I'm good. Mayor Smith, thank you guys, council, for your time tonight. We just wanted to come by. We come see you guys annually for a price increase if it's required. We have a lot of new faces. I was new last year. My name is Chris Carey. I'm the general manager for Northern Oregon. To my right is Scott Meethy. He's our operations manager who runs the entire coast operations for us. So if there's any issues, call Scott. And then we have Dan Blue, who's new to the team. He's our community. I have to read it again, sorry.
Government and community relations.
Yes.
You can also call me if you don't want to bug me.
Yeah, so and Dan is new in this role, but has a ton of experience in the industry. He was actually, I'll let you tell him what you did.
Sure. So recently I was a systems planning manager for Metro Regional Government for 8 years and did operations work there. I was also the solid waste director for the city of Gresham for 8 years. And before that, I ran a sustainability and recycling research institute out of Portland State University for a decade. So I've been in the industry for 23 years, always on the public sector side. So this is my first foray into private. I always thought if I'm ever going to work for a garbage company, it's going to be Recology. I'm going to steal your line from there. The only employee-owned garbage company in the state of Oregon and the largest in the country. So I'm super happy to be in this role. And really, I would love to be your conduit for things unless they're really strictly operational. And that's
Which we are going to talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Scott, I'm sorry, you can give us history. We've been talking this for a while.
Yeah, I've been doing this, been with this company for 20 years. Started off as a garbage man, just marked the routes, and then moved up the chain. I know this area very well.
Yes, your kids go to school
In
Warrenton, using all that water. But so we wanted to give you a quick update to sort of the state of the union. I'll go fast. One of the things we're really proud of is the drivers in the service your area. So I'm going to read their names and what they do for you here. So we have a residential garbage driver. We just have one of those. It's Tim Sauls. He's new-ish for us 1 year. And this is going to speak to the turnover and the ability to find drivers. And I tell you all the seniority that we have in drivers. And I think you probably appreciate that in terms of getting folks to get back to work after COVID. You have two residential recyclers. You have Pat Ehrlich and Zach Woodlock. Pat's been here 5 years and Zach's been 1 year. You have commercial glass pickup, so we come by and hit a lot of cities with that truck. That's Mike Young. He's been here 1 year. Commercial front load is Eric Harris, 11 years. And I think Mike Young was also, like I said earlier, he does some front load for us as well. That's the big industrial guys with the cool truck that have forks. That's what they do. And then we have Aaron Smalley, 14 years. He has one of those big fork trucks that picks up the cardboard in town. Then we have a roll-off driver who will probably pick up this big drop box. Gary Marie, Aaron's, that's Steve Heisen. He's new, 1 year. And then we have your cart delivery. He's all over the place. Dylan Dietrich, 1 year. We also have Tony, who's been here 8 years. And then we have Katie Hardesty, who's been here 11 years. And she's just been recently promoted to supervisor. She's probably watching. So hi, Katie, if you're out there. Let's see, I want to talk about a few other things. Staffing, customer service has been a bit of tough tackle for us. We're most recently now staffed up. We have 10 that service our McMinnville, like our Yamhill County operations and the coast counties. They're stationed out of McMinnville, so we call that local compared to big call centers. And we're fully staffed. If there's an Achilles heel, it's been that. Sometimes there's some long calls, so wait times. So we know that we're working on that internally. Getting fully staffed is going to help. We've also put 2 of those customer service reps here at the coast at the Warrenton office. So they're familiar with the area, the routes and the drivers. Also, you can go there right now and pay in person if you want. We'll open it a bit open probably for 8 months, so to say, which is, fairly new. Let's talk about, I just want to mention something too, that we don't need to solve for tonight. There's a few cities that we're working with along the coast that have what we call a lot of side yard service. And it's the nature of working at the coast, right? We have a lot of vacation rentals that are not always here, so the service is at the curb, or not at the curb, it's off curb, as we call it side yard. Over the years, we've lagged on our end on enforcing what that means. It's supposed to be 40 feet from the curb, where we can see it, no steps, no garages, no fences that we have to go through, that kind of thing. That's outdoor, like we're going in enclosures, the people have built, I think we've done it to a garage here and there. So before we make any wholesale changes like that, we contact you guys and say, hey, here's our top 5 that we want to look at and say we actually need those on the curb. One of the reasons that we have new drivers here is because as soon as they get a route that's more automated, they take it. And then the driver that has to do all these pack outs is not an efficient truck and doing a ton of walking, right? And bringing carts out. So they get, it can wear them out and they're like, as soon as I can get an automated route, I'm on it. That's not your fault. That's our fault. But when we go to fix it, we want to work with you guys in a way that balances to keep your guys' character and nature of living at the coast the way it is, but we also want to be safe. So we're over the next 12 months, Dan's job will be to work with you guys to figure out how we do that in a way that has that balance, right? And then the other thing is we have some rate issues that we don't need to solve for tonight, that there's not an incentive built in for a side yard. In some cases, the rate to go side yard is really small compared to what it is to put on the curb. So you need to have some incentive there. We would propose rates in a way that balances that. That if we're gonna raise rate, for instance, for somebody that has a side yard to an incentive that says, do you really need it? Is it what we said it would be? To give that rate to the people that bring it to the curb, right? So if I say $5 differential, that means 5 coming off the curb side going into the side yard. Right? So there's some balance there. So don't need to solve for that. That's not what we're presenting tonight. But I wanted you guys to I wanted you to be aware of it because over the next year, before we come back for the next race, it's a long-term effort on our side to level set and reset in a way that's safe, that balances what you guys need for your communities. I'm gonna pause for questions in case somebody goes, I don't know what you're talking about.
What percentage of your Gearhart customers are pack outs?
33. I was ready for that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not as high as some. You know, we have some cities that are in the 60 to 70% range, all pack out. So for us in Gearhart, the pack out is there's a rate that there's no incentive there, and that's some of the 32, the 90 gallon pack out is fine, the incentive's there. But there's also some stops that were not intended for us to go 100 yards if they can, behind the house, then upstairs. We have some of that here. So before we upset a bunch of people, we're gonna work with you guys. We'll do our top 10, and we're doing that in some other cities. And then we'll work with you guys. We're also an open invitation for you if you want to see what we're talking about. Let us know. We can get you in a truck, or we can drive you out and watch the truck and see what they do. You guys probably see it every day, but if you go around, you'll see a lot more. Get it, and the drivers. So it's an open invitation. Let us know if you want to do it.
I do have a question. I don't want to write on a garbage truck.
They're really cool.
Well.
They're not as rude as you think.
So the pack outs, we only have 69 rental or the short-term rentals here in town. So I'm imagining that if there are that many here, it might be older folks that are unable to take things to the curb for themselves.
Yeah, there's exceptions for that.
There are, okay.
Yeah, we're not looking. That's why we would go through this with you and say, okay, we have now, because we don't go and ask them when they sign up for service. Okay,
right.
Get it out to the curb. So that would be stuff we do.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna try to be as proactive so we don't make those mistakes and have somebody that's not able to get it out, try and bring it out.
It might be helpful for us to get you the addresses of the 69 vacation rentals, so you can see if those are the problem areas. Because we have a long history of regulating vacation
Yeah.
rentals, so.
Yeah, we're seeing it up and down the coast, so we go all the way to Rockaway with our service levels, so. Go ahead. Oh,
Are there places where you do curbside glass fix?
so yeah, we've promoted that in a subscription type setup where people want to get started. It's in its infancy here. So if you're interested in that, we can go back and look at that and present you the rate for that if that's what you're. And I know that's probably been asked for before, Scott.
I think when it was talked about a while back, the only place that we currently operate is in Astoria. They have a curbside glass and yard waste picked up at their house as well. So they have subscriptions.
Yeah, so it starts with subscription, we may get 10%. And then we'd say, hey, look, if we don't get the 40%, then we can't do it anymore. And so we'll put a rate out there that at least covers us and allows us to not go backwards or be in the red. So that initial subscription rate might be high, but it's an intent to see if the program there's enough interest in it. Because right now you guys are served by depots to get your glass.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that up to the city to do a questionnaire of its citizens to find out the interest is, or do you guys do that? Or?
So what you would do is ask us, hey, we're interested in seeing this. But ahead of that, you could do focus groups, you could do surveys. Dan, you've got some projects in the past.
Yeah.
So what have you guys done? Who did this before? Surveys or?
Well, I've done it on behalf of local government, so it's
Yeah.
really, it's up to the city's kind of will to poll your residents to see if that's a service that they're interested in. And if there is, interest in it, like Chris said, we would start with a subscription of it and see how that goes for a year or two, I would think.
Yeah.
And then come back and say, we only had 10 people sign up. Do you really want to consider adding it to your regular rate? That's fine.
I do want to make a correction though. Astoria isn't a subscription base. It's part of it, yeah. So they have 4 cans or 4 garbage, recycling, yard waste and glass pickup. But it's all baked in their rate, it's not subscription.
And just to be clear for the folks that might be listening and that don't understand what you mean by subscription, you're talking about you pay if you sign up.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the rest, if you don't sign up, you don't pay.
Like an a la carte.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I have my normal service that's been prescribed by the city. If I want additional services, I can do that, but I have to pay extra.
Thank you.
If you guys went citywide, it would be one rate and everybody would be offered this service, whether they use it or not. We see that everywhere.
So what's the difference in rates between what Gerhardt's paying and what Astoria's paying?
I don't have Astoria's off the top of my head, but it's probably, I think it's higher. But when you start looking at density, right, they're gonna have more efficiency, so it's gonna be cheaper per home to service them. So it gets into a bigger, broader question, but I can, we can probably look that up again.
Yeah, but you guys are on the hill up there all the time.
Yeah, and the proximity to the transfer station, they were right there, so that's where, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but we just went through this with a lot of the Yandell County cities as well, because we started subscription services there for exactly what you're talking about. So it takes a lot to get them off, to get going, but that's why we suggest subscription. And then, if you guys want it, then we may have you and ourselves try to couple with a nearby city. So that if we're gonna bring a truck out, should we go even further and try to get more, fill this truck? Because filling half a truck is expensive versus filling a full truck. And you got a density, right? Home after home after home, tops. Did that answer?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's just talk about the rate review. Just in general, the way it works is if we project that we're gonna be over CPI, or I'm sorry, if we project we're gonna be outside of our operating ratio, which is allowed in the franchise, then we would come in for what we call a full rate review. If we're not, and we're within the bounds of the operating ratio, we come in just for CPI. And in this case, we're barely within our operating ratio, so we're only asking for the CPI increase, which is 4%. I think you guys have a cap, CPI is at 5%. So it's a 4% increase that we're asking for, and that puts us at the bottom of our margin or our operating ratio. We've done that for a couple of years to sort of ease people back into these big increases that we're seeing, whether it was the cost of living going up, which we've seen 2 years in a row, pretty big jumps. We've seen increases in our landfill costs, and we passed those through. The biggest increase we've seen this year is labor. We had to pay more to keep drivers, right? We had to pay more to attract drivers. Last year, Scott barely made it to this meeting because he was on route. Katie was on route. Our maintenance manager was on route because we didn't have drivers. This year, I think our offer went out to our last. Yeah, but we may be fully staffed in a couple of weeks, which is great, and fully staffed for the season, right? You get to know the season goes like this from summer hits and drops. So to recover was weird. We saw it sort of stable. People just stayed down here, and you guys might have felt that as well. So a weird time to try to budget it and project the cost. So we feel good about it, but it does put us at the bottom of our operating ratio. So you probably won't see us here next year. We're trying to do quarter turn dials instead of one big term to get us to where we should be in terms of our franchise agreement and rate of return. We're on the bottom. All right. I think that's all I had. And if there's any questions, I wanted to give you an impact. Sorry. So what does that look like? Your most common service that you have here is the 90-gallon meter service, not 32, right? And we see that actually. It's pretty common. And some of that could be the rental folks that go with the 90 and not a 32 because they don't want to have a bunch of extras hanging out. And so that'll see a $1.51 increase monthly cost. And that takes the rate from 37.64 to 39.15. My math is right. If Dan's math is right. All right. Any questions for us?
Not for me.
Yeah, open invitation. Dan will be reaching out to you guys to see if you want to come check it out. I don't know if there's a motion or a resolution.
It goes in order and you're gonna be a while, so if we can get a hold of you and tell you you're gonna be.
Okay.
We've got our budget.
So we'll watch on TV tonight.
Sure.
And if we can log in, like if you have questions for, you probably won't have questions at that time. It's just a motion automatic. Okay. That's okay, then we'll vote. Here.
Sure. Understandable.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Thank you. All right.
I don't get it, but I will email.
All right, yeah. Okay, thank you. Great.
Moving on to public communications, written and oral. Oral public comment. Anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder at info@cityofgearhart.com no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. And so what we're going to do is go through the written communication and then we'll go call our visitors. And everyone has gotten the written communications. Is there any comments? Hearing none, I believe we'll just close that part of it and move on to public input. Eric Halpern.
Yes, hello, Eric Halpern, 661 10th Street in Gerhart. I just want to echo and expand on both Dana and Peter's comments about how well I feel that you all, the entire city, handled the, how well you found solutions for the encampment of folks suffering homelessness. You made it clear from the start that your intent would be to address those folks with compassion, with empathy, with dignity and humanity. but also that you needed to protect public safety and public health. You brought in social service groups. You found local legal expertise. You created a viable legal structure, and I believe you did your very best to help those people in their circumstance. I think it was a true team effort of the whole city. Council, the mayor, the city staff, the police, public works, the city attorney. I think you all contributed and you all did, I think, an excellent job. I believe that special recognition goes to Chad Sweet and to Sergeant Brown for being on the front lines and dealing, I believe, almost daily with the circumstances that you found yourself with. And I think you did that with humanity and dignity and compassion, and also the need to take care of the circumstance. I think in today's world, public servants are often either unappreciated or underappreciated, and sadly, in many cases, are under attack. And I feel it's important to recognize you when you act professionally and competently and with compassion. And I think you all did a very good job, and I personally thank you for it. That's it.
Thank you, Eric. Always
Thank you.
nice to hear something positive.
Indeed. Yep, and you deserve it.
All right, moving on. Bob Maury.
Thank you, Kurt. First of all, I'd like to thank.
Name and address.
Yes, Bob Maury, 271 D Street. And I would like to ditto what Eric just said. You did a tremendous job. It's, really appreciated the team that you put together and how you solved the problem. And thank you very much. I'm here to talk about one segment. Mayor Smith at the Gearhart Association meeting made a comment. Gearhart has accomplished a number of important milestones. The city rejected the proposed rezoning of the former elementary school property. That's a milestone that we accomplished. We never were given a request to approve anything on the school, rezoning of the school. And I think Peter can talk to that. You're the decision-making authority. There was a planning commission hearing. The planner, we felt, did a very professional job. We listened to all of the commissioners. I made a conscious decision to make sure they went through their discussions and then went to the vote. And then we withdrew the application. But I wanted them on record so we had guidance on how we deal with things in the future. I couldn't have been happier than I was with the result. I thought it was a tremendous result for us. It gave me guidance on how I'm going to handle the problem. So that's fine, but they don't make any decisions at the planning commission level. They only recommend, and nothing was ever recommended to the city council. So I would just ask that you please take a look at it and say there was never anything presented to the city council, and that was purposefully done. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. I would like to apologize if I misspoke and said that representing the city council that we rejected it, okay? That was not my intent when I said that. It was just a misspoken word on my part.
Yeah, I would just say that Bob's attorney, Terry Richter, is someone that I've worked with over a number of years in a number of jurisdictions, someone I have a lot of respect for. I thought she did an excellent job. And, you know, I think that the good news from that hearing is that Bob's team really knows if the future planning commission is like this one, that having data related to the septic system is just really important in helping inform them on and Bob as well and his team on the best possible use for frankly, in any Gerhard property, the septic is a really important factor. But yeah, I thought, you know, they definitely provided some guidance that will help inform his team, and if there's an application in the future, I think that it'll help inform all of you. I assume there'll be an application in the future once there's some more data. So I always, you know, look forward to it. And again, just want to reiterate that I thought Karen did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? No other public comment, then we're going to close that section. We're going to move on to ordinance and resolutions. All right. First up is the charter franchise renewal agreement. This is the second reading, so if we don't have any other discussion about it, I would take a motion to approve 938, reading once by title only.
I move we approve ordinance 938, reading once by title only.
I'll second.
Chad, are you going to want to talk, or do you want me to just read the ordinance on its own? And
If you wouldn't mind, Mayor, thank you.
okay. Ordinance 938, charter franchise agreement renewal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Okay, next is resolution 985. This is a resolution granting budget appropriation transfers.
So, oh, sorry.
I would like to open the public hearing on this.
Not on this one.
Public hearing possible. You're right, I'm so sorry. I skipped to the bottom. Okay. Would you like to read it?
Yes. Or do you want me to read it or want me to explain it?
You could do one of both.
Maybe I'll do both, okay. Whereas the city of Gerhart adopted resolution 971, adopting and making appropriations for the 2022-2023 budget on June 1st, 2022. And whereas the city of Gerhart's actual expenditures have varied from the budgeted anticipated expenditures, which required an appropriation transfers between existing categories. And whereas Oregon Budget Law ORS 294-4631 allows the city to move appropriations between existing categories within a fund. And whereas explanation of the needed transfers within the city of Gerhart's budget appropriations for 2022-2023 include increased building official costs due to a finalized work agreement, contract services provided by Clatsop County Sheriff's Office due to unfilled police personnel positions, costs for police chief recruitment, and overtime costs for the court clerk. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Gerhart that budgeted monies within the general fund be appropriated per the adjusted column in the chart below.
Are there any questions for Justine? I will entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the modified budget,
The resolution.
the resolution.
985.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor for the granting of the budget appropriation transfers, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so pass. Now I get to have my public hearing. I open the hearing. Possible uses of state revenue sharing funds. Anyone having a comment in the public wishing to speak on this subject? None. I close the hearing. We have a resolution stating the city of Gerhart hereby elects to receive state revenues. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll give you a motion to elect to receive the state revenue sharing funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
I'll second.
A motion for resolution 986 and second. Any discussion by anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes. Public hearing, City of Deer Heart budget. Anyone in the public wishing to speak on this subject? None? Close the public hearing. Resolution, where is it? Oh, thank you. 987, thank you. So I take a motion to adopt.
I move we adopt resolution 987, resolution adopting the City of Deer Heart budget for 2023 to 2024, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for the City of Deer Heart.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Public hearing for Deer Heart Road District budget. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment on this budget? Hearing none, I'll close it. I will take a motion.
I move that we adopt the budget for, that we adopt resolution 988, adopting the budget for 2023, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for the City of Deer Heart Road District.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Resolution 989. Resolution affixing the compensation to the following officers. So there's no public hearing. Okay, I'll read. A resolution affixing the compensation of the following officers of the City of Deer Heart: City Attorney, Police Chief, Fire Chief, City Administrator, Treasurer, Judge, and repealing all other prior ordinances and or resolutions affixing the compensation of these officers of the City of Deer Heart. Is there a motion?
I motion to approve.
Is there a
Resolution 989.
second? Second. Any discussion?
These are all changes that we've discussed in the past, well known to a lot of, we understand that this is in our best interest, and we continue to be competitive and keep up with PERS and all of the other changes that are going on. Is that correct, Jason?
Correct. My understanding is that this resolution probably in some parts was an extension of the charter. Well, it was. So the charter at the time it was created did not have a salary schedule. So the salaries were unseen by the public, really. I mean, they were not open to city council. So in the charter, it specifically said that the council, which would be in an open meeting for them to see. But with the implementation of the salary schedule, it's pretty clear that that salary schedule has to be followed. It has to go through a public process. The budget committee sees it first, and then it evolves to the city council, which will then make a decision. So on those non-elected officials and all employees, it is completely transparent. Somebody can go to that budget at any time and look at those salaries and see that that's the salary schedule that we're using. So I think, I see why it was in the charter at the time it was in the charter. I think that it is not clear that it necessarily needs a resolution, and clearly the attorney and the judge are not in that. So you would still want to continue that. It doesn't hurt to have language, but I think that the employee handbook, or as Peter mentioned, even hiring somebody new, and you might have an employment agreement that would have to come to the council anyway, that you could modify the salary schedule, it still would be in a public setting. So
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah.
Okay, so did we get a second? Did we get a motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Thank you for keeping me straight. All those in favor of resolution 989? 989?
Aye.
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 That was unanimous, I believe. Okay. Now, under new business, is there anyone in the public who wish to speak about the new business on hand? You have 3 minutes to make a comment according to our new breakdown of time allotment for personal comments on new business and old business. Hearing none. The subject is a request for moving expenditures to the Water Reserve Fund. Justine, you want to just give us a quick?
Sure. So this is an appropriations. This is actually expenditures that we have made. The water reserve, the water operating fund is struggling. I do a cash flow report. It's projected to be negative. Oregon budget law says you can't have negative. One of the options that we have is that we can take qualifying expenditures, and with the council's permission, because it is a reserve fund, you can allow us to transfer those expenditures to the water reserve fund. So we are just requesting that you give us permission to move those funds from the water operating fund, those expenditures, move them over into the water reserve fund.
It's just a bookkeeping thing.
It's a bookkeeping thing, but it's important with the reserve funds that the council made aware of spending those funds. We have the ability to move expenditures within their own fund, but we do not have, this is a special circumstance. So yeah, it's a bookkeeping thing.
So you have also included a transactions detail of the water meter replacement. Has that project been completed?
No.
I think it's at 75%.
Is it? Okay, thank you.
That's the new goals list that Chad and I haven't been able to work on because our meeting was canceled because of illness. But it is available by the end of the week. I'm sure Chad and I will have a meeting. All right, so if someone read that recommended motion, I'd appreciate it. And then we'll get a second.
Okay, I move that we approve the request for moving expenditures to the water reserve fund.
I'll give you a second.
Okay. That's good enough. Any discussion?
And again, to be clear, this is something we've discussed in the past, and we're taking the steps necessary to ensure that hopefully this won't be a reoccurring problem, especially during our budgeting process. This year, we addressed it, and then with the water rate study, we're hoping to mitigate this in the future.
Correct.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes. Okay, I'm going to have a park bench committee. I'd like to know if any other counselor would like to be on it with me. And I'm going to choose some people in the general public.
I'd like you.
Well,
Oh, you can only have one.
right.
Okay.
She can do it.
I do want to.
Okay, then you do it. Thank you, Sharon. Rita, thank you, and I'll be in touch with you and we will
I understand.
talk about other people from the general public. I'd like to have 4.
Right,
I will deal with 5. I will not with 7.
I understand.
Can I make a suggestion at some point?
Sure.
Placement
Placement? Yeah,
of a bench.
yeah. Yeah, that all.
You can always attend as a non-voting member of the committee and express your opinion. If that committee votes on recommendations, you just, because you're a ad hoc committee member and not voting committee member, then you know, that should be fine. I mean, this committee is just providing a recommendation to council after looking through analysis, so.
So that doesn't present a conflict of interest when we finally have to vote on something. In other words, if I, as a city councilor, make recommendations to the committee for bench placements, then we vote on it later on, can I still vote on it, or?
Yeah, because during that time, people will present evidence and express opinions that could cause you to change your mind. So, actually, I was in the city of Westland last night staffing a land use thing until 11, and this topic of bias came up. And even if you as a council have strong opinions on a subject, as long as you're willing to keep an open mind, and as long as you're willing to consider the evidence and you're willing to change your mind, you can participate. You know, the River Keeper case involving the Clackamas County Commissioner was a kind of set the benchmark for bias. And there's a more recent case where city councilor said at the beginning of the meeting that he had made up his mind on how to vote, but then said that he misspoke and that he was open to hearing evidence, and that was challenged, and the legal board determined that he wasn't biased because he had acknowledged that he had done his homework but was always open. So yeah, I'm not terribly concerned if you participate, as long as you don't go in with an opinion that can't be changed.
Will at any time the results of this committee, will we have to go before the planning committee?
I could see that happening. I don't know, but it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Especially if the bench is gonna be in a park that doesn't help, because then we'll have to have
Yes,
a hearing and everything else.
yes, I understand.
Another hearing. Okay. That being done, council concerns, Preston,
I don't have any.
Rita,
I have not.
Sharon. Dana,
No, I would just like to reiterate or repeat my invitation to anybody who's interested in helping plan for a July 5th beach cleanup, to meet me in the park at 2:00 on this coming Saturday.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll give you a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Adjourn. Thank you all for coming.
Justine, are we going to start a list of people that want to go for the garbage truck rides?
You got your hand up, all right, Chad.
It was either city administrator or garbage truck driver.
They said they let you shoot the board.
Thank you all for covering.
We'll
for
get a
me.
hold of Justine and set it up for you as soon as possible.
I want to go on a garbage truck. Oh, yeah. I think it'd be awesome.
How do we exit
This is something we.
Stop the recording.
Yeah.
I think Chad is